All right, so the Kavanaugh hearings have been going insane. The Senate has now voted, they got 51 votes for cloture. So they're going to have, I forget the exact time period of time, but they're going to debate for a certain amount of time and then vote. So that has gone through. The FBI investigation, of course, was a huge giant sham. It was a joke in which they didn't even speak to Brett Kavanaugh or Christine Blasey Ford. There have been a group of friends of Brett Kavanaugh who came out saying that the Senate should not confirm him because he's someone who lies under oath. So Jordan Peterson made an interesting point that I actually agree with. And so he says if confirmed, Kavanaugh should step down. And that totally sent his fans into a complete frenzy. Now, before I get into, because I want to read some of the things that his fans said, but first I want to read what he quote tweeted. So he's part of the intellectual dark web, and apparently the person who really put together the intellectual dark web, according to Dave Rubin, which I'm sure is correct, is Eric Weinstein. And he and his brother Brett Weinstein, apparently they lean left, like they're somewhat left leaning. So here's what Brett Weinstein wrote, a thread that I'm going to read to you guys about this, which is what led to Jordan Peterson making his statement. So here's how his thread starts out. It says, "My position on the hashtag Kavanaugh confirmation, both outcomes are completely unacceptable. Kavanaugh was clearly, at the very least, an entitled punk through college. Nothing suggests a radical shift in mindset. He appears to be the kind of adult that entitled punks grow into. Putting someone on the court who is likely to view the world through those narrow eyes is a betrayal of the most elemental American values. All the worse that the nomination came from another entitled punk. It's a divisive finger in the eye for life to patriots of all stripes. Imagine this court has to intervene in an election or confront one of the difficult issues that divides the nation. Kavanaugh's involvement will undermine the legitimacy of any decision in which he votes along expected lines. On the other hand, we can't have a republic with veto by accusation, even if most accusations are true. The incentive to weaponize accusation will drag such a system quickly into an accusation arms race in which cooperation becomes impossible and true victims are ignored. This lose-lose situation is the same position we had on election night 2016. It's telling. Our system has gone into a phase in which we are regularly forced to choose between unacceptable options. Normal tools won't save us. To survive, we must embrace the new and unknown." So, part of what Brett is saying is true, which is that Brett is a douche who's clearly not fit to sit on the Supreme Court, and it's very clear that Brett is not fit to sit on the Supreme Court because if you saw the hearing, first of all, he committed perjury more than 5 times. He said that Devil's Triangle is a drinking game, which it's not a drinking game. Devil's Triangle is a threesome with 2 dudes and 1 girl. He said that boofing meant to fart. Oh, and by the way, someone from Congress tried to edit the definition on Wikipedia of what Devil's Triangle was, and they got exposed for that. But he said that, he was asked the question of, did you have any connections to Yale? Now, I want to repeat the question of whether or not you had any connections to Yale and whether or not that connection was the reason why you got into Yale is 2 different questions. And the question he was asked was, did you have any connections to Yale? And he said no. And basically, the truth is that he's a legacy admission. His grandfather went to Yale. So was that the sole reason why he got in? I don't know. Probably not. But that's irrelevant because that wasn't the question. The question was, do you have any actual connections to Yale? And he said no, which is an outright lie. He also said that he hadn't seen the Christine Blasey Ford hearing, although it was clear that during that he knew that he did watch it. Also, he made the claim that he had heard about Deborah Ramirez's allegations through the New York Times article of when the story came out. But it was also found out because of his friends that he was frantically texting his acquaintances and friends from before, basically trying to witness tamper to get them to back him up. So he knew about those allegations prior to that. And there are other there are other acts of perjury that he committed as well. Like boofing, he said that it meant flatulence, which it doesn't mean flatulence. It means some sort of putting some drugs up your ass or some shit like that. So part of it, Brett's right about that. But then he sort of gets into some weird stuff, and where he doesn't really mention the acts of perjury that were committed, and the fact that there are essentially three things that can be levied against Brett Kavanaugh that would prevent him from being on the Supreme Court. One, he's clearly not someone who is fit to be on the court because he does not have the temperament to be a Supreme Court justice, a justice on the court that determines the law of the land, because he has done, constantly, he's done consistent things in which show that he does not have the temperament to do so. So, like, for example, when Senator Klobuchar asked him, have you ever drunk to the extent of blacking out? And then Brett Kavanaugh's response is, have you done that? And you may say, oh, well, that was justified. Well, then why did he apologize for it after repeating it twice, and then he apologized? And why did he just write an op-ed in which he said that he got too emotional? You tell me that. It's because it was clearly inappropriate. It is not appropriate to, when you are asked a relevant, legitimate question that completely makes sense, is 100% sensible, and you respond with asking the senator about those accusations. That is not something that's appropriate, even in the slightest. Not even in the slightest. And then the same thing with Senator Whitehouse. He says, do you like beer? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Like, you don't do that type of shit. It doesn't make sense. So, and then there's the acts of perjury that were committed. And then it's that these allegations are very credible. Now, Eric Weinstein is the one who Jordan Peterson actually quote tweeted. And Eric Weinstein quote tweeted Brett Weinstein's thread in which he says, "This position is held in varying forms by nearly everyone thoughtful with whom I'm speaking. What divides these folks is which way to break the symmetry. But honest people see deep reasons that both outcomes are not healthy or workable. We need a genius healer we just don't have." Now, what I don't like is that, and what I disagree with, is that there's some kind of symmetry. There is no symmetry. It's 100% against Brett Kavanaugh, everything. He is somebody who has committed perjury multiple times. He is somebody who is clearly not fit to sit on the Supreme Court. And number three, the allegations are very credible against him. So there is nothing to give Kavanaugh any credit for whatsoever, not even in the slightest. So, what caused Jordan Peterson's fans to totally turn on him? And this is, I don't know if this has happened before. You guys can let me know about this. But it seems that Jordan Peterson, this seems to be the first time where he is getting backlash from his own fans. Now, this is definitely not the first time Jordan Peterson has got backlash. I mean, there was a time where he was essentially getting attacked by everyone under the sun when the whole enforced monogamy thing came out. But this does seem to be the first time that his own fans have turned on him. Now here, again, he responded to that saying, if confirmed, Kavanaugh should step down. So what he's saying is, obviously very self-explanatory, if Kavanaugh is confirmed, he should step down and leave. Now, I'm going to read you guys some of, and it's a very, really sort of straight up short statement. It's not like Eric or Brett's where it's descriptive. It's just very straightforward. And it seems that his fans have lost it. One person says, "Peterson, have you lost your mind?" And then there's a bunch of other ones too. It says, one of them says, "I've never heard you say something I so wholeheartedly disagree with, Dr. P." One of them says, "Love you, Jordan, but no." One of them says, "Jordan, you have been hacked." You can look at these. There's a crap ton of these, but he's getting ratioed. He's getting ratioed right now. So this tweet has 1.5k favorites, but it has 3,000 comments, and the comments are just going to keep rolling in. So the ratio is going to continue to grow further and further. So I would recommend checking it out, but I'll read some more of these. One of them says, "Nah, let's not reward fake rape stunts." There was another one that was really funny, but it seems that his fans are just absolutely going off. One of them basically said, "You lost me," and one of them said, "I just bought your book." So they were very clearly sort of disappointed by what he said. So it just seems to be the case that people are absolutely going off. And I'm honestly surprised that the intellectual dark web of all groups and people decided to at least make this sort of, well, first of all, Brett and Eric tried making this false equivalency, which there is none. There is no symmetry. But Jordan Peterson actually saying that Kavanaugh should step down, I agree with Jordan Peterson. I think so too. I think it's a travesty that he'd even get confirmed because there are three things that can be levied against him, like I already stated. Multiple, in abundance amount of counts of perjury, clearly not having the temperance and the maturity to be on the highest court of the land. And third, these allegations are extremely credible, and the FBI investigation was a complete sham that didn't even speak to. Think about this, and I covered this. There's this video, and it was a CNN interview with Yale, Brett Kavanaugh's Yale roommate at Yale, his own roommate. They didn't even contact him. They legit did not contact him in this investigation. The person who he lived with in Yale, they didn't contact even once. If that doesn't tell you that this is a sham and a complete fake and a fraud, nothing will, because that is the biggest joke in history. And for them not to speak to Kavanaugh and Christine Blasey Ford because they're going to be able to get more statements, more information, than they would when Brett Kavanaugh's not answering questions and saying, did you black out drunk? Did you like beer? So the fact that they didn't do any of that shows that the FBI investigation was a complete sham. And I guess Jordan Peterson can see that. And honestly, I'm sort of surprised. I didn't expect Jordan Peterson to come out to say this, but he is Canadian at the end of the day. And someone pointed out that obviously Canadians are seemingly more rational when it comes as a whole sphere, I should say. When it comes to the whole playing field, it's more towards the left than it is towards the right, and it seems to be just more rational in general. But let me know your thoughts on this down below. It looks like the intellectual dark web and Jordan Peterson, or at least some of the intellectual dark web, not a fan of Kavanaugh.